Okay, so here are the 8.2 notes for Algebra 2. So this is the second section of notes. So this is composition of functions. This is kind of a special um, operation because again, like this, most of this chapter deals with operations of functions. This composition is more of a specialized operation. And basically, when we're thinking of composition of functions, so we have it written over here in the notation. I'm going to rewrite that notation because it's kind of hard to read. But it's going to look something either like this or like this. Now, do not get confused with this little circle sign. That is not a multiplication sign. All right, multiplication sign is a dot, is a closed dot. This is an open circle. All right, but basically, what we mean by composition of functions, we say like f like this f of g of x. But basically, what that means is, right, we're going to take, I'm going to do a little erasing here. We're going to take this inside function, so the g of x, which is on the inside here, and we're going to plug this function basically in for this outside function. So wherever this outside function has an x, that's we're going to put the equation for this inside function. Okay, so how does that look, or what do we do with that? So let's go ahead and do a couple here. So I got f of x, and again for this one I will try to color coordinate. So f of x is the blue, and the g of x is the green, okay? So for this first one, I have g of x on the inside, so I have f of g of x. That's how I say this, so f of g of x, all right? And basically what this is telling me is that g of x is on the inside of these big parentheses here. I'm going to take the equation for g of x and plug it in wherever the f equation has an x at. Okay, so let's go ahead and solve this here. So I'm going to first off write out my 5, and then I have an x, so I'm going to leave a giant space there, minus 4. So what I just did was I took this first equation here, the first f, and I basically rewrote it f, and then big parentheses. This is where my x would be, but because it's g inside here, I'm going to plug in this equation 3x plus 5 in for this parenthesis right here. So again, color coordinated. So I'm going to take this 3x plus 5 and just plug it in right there, 3x plus 5. And again, that goes in, basically this goes into this x right here, okay? And then from there, I'm going to use, let's go ahead and use purple. And then from there, I'm going to distribute the 5 out, simplify this down. I'm going to get 15x plus 25 minus 4, and then I'm left with 15x plus 21, okay? Okay, so that's the first example. Let's do this other example, okay? Um, Now this one's flipped. I have my g equation, my g function on the outside, and then I have f on the inside. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this f equation, plug it in for g. So kind of the opposite of what I did here. I'm going to take this equation here, I'm going to kind of go top side here, and I'm going to plug it in for this x right here. So I'm going to rewrite this equation right here. So 3, and then instead of an x, I'm going to leave a space to plug the 5x minus 4 in, space plus 5, because again, this is technically x. And then in the parentheses there, I'm going to plug in my equation 5x minus 4. So I'm going to do 5x minus 4 inside, okay? And then just like we did here, we're going to distribute the 3 out. We're going to be left with 15x minus 12 plus 5. Simplify the like terms, I get 15x minus 7, okay? Okay. So moving on to a couple more examples here. So I got f of g of x, g of f of x. I'm also going to write out the other notation just so you can kind of see what it would look like. So this would be f of g of x or g little circle of x here. All right. Just know that if you see this instead of this, it doesn't change anything. All right. These and these again, they're asking I mean, no, I mean, this and this are asking the same thing. So as this and this, okay? So don't get tripped up, all right? Don't go thinking that I have to do f times g of x, all right? It's, again, the same thing, all right? So again, if I see f, I call it the little fog, or this one goff, because it literally looks like GOF or FOG. Again, if you see this notation, we're still basically plugging in the equations, okay? Okay. So go ahead and color coordinate. So for this first equation, I have g f of g of x. So again, I have the inside equation g, and I'm going to plug it into the f equation. So I'm going to write out my f equation. So I have 2, then I have an x, so I'm going to leave a space. And then on the outside, I have cubed. So again, this is basically kind of representing my x cubed here, plus 2 squared, again, because I'm basically representing this x squared like this. And again, on the inside here, I'm going to plug in my equation for g of x here. So I'm going to go ahead and just plug in the x squared. All right. And then simplifying it out, I'm going to use the purple. Simplifying it out, all I do is I have a power raised to a power, so again, I'm going to multiply these numbers, so the 3 times the 2. The 2 on the outside is going to stay the same. X to the 2 times 3, that gets me x to the 6, plus 2, this 2 on the outside stays the same. X to the x squared times to the second power, that's just x2 times 2, which gets me x to the 4th power, okay? All right. So, and then for this one right here, I'm going to take this f function, and plug it in for g. So what's my g equation? X squared. And then my f equation is 2x cubed plus 2x squared. So I'm going to take the g equation, write it out, which again is just x squared, but I'm going to leave a little bit of a space to plug this equation into here. So it's going to be a space squared, and then I'm going to plug in this 2x cubed plus 2x squared into here. So it's going to be 2x cubed plus 2x squared. All right. Now, little review here, because I've harped on this in the past, and I hope that your other Algebra 2 teachers have. But remember, if we get something that looks like this, where it's a binomial or any kind of polynomial squared with a plus sign or a minus sign, I can't just distribute this, or excuse me. I have to write out, and I have to write out 2x cubed plus 2x squared basically 2 times. All right. And then from there, I have to basically distribute it all out. All right. So I'm actually going to do the work kind of over here. Let's see, 2x cubed times 2x cubed, that gets me 4x to the 6. Multiply these numbers out front. Add these exponents. 2x cubed plus 2x squared, that's going to give me plus 4x to the 5th. 2 times 2 is 4. X cubed times x squared is x to the 5th. Done with that one. Moving on to this one. 2x squared times 2x cubed, that gets me 4x to the 5th. And then 2x squared times 2x squared, that gets me 4x to the 4th. All right. If I add those together, the 4x to the 4th stays the same. 4x plus 5th times, actually the 6th, excuse me, sorry. 4x to the 5th plus 4x to the 5th, that gets me 8x to the 5th. Let me get this written down here. 8x to the 5th. And then the plus 4x to the 4 stays the same. All right. And I'll rewrite it. So yeah, so sorry about the handwriting there. But so give me 1 second. All right, sorry about that. So here is the kind of more clearly written out final answer for this g of x, f of x right here. All right. Okay, so last composition. Last slide of the notes here for the composition function. Now what we're going to do is we're going to now involve, instead of x's, we're going to involve numbers. All right. So we got f. So we got f of g of -3, and again I'm going to write out the other notation so you can kind of get a look at it. X, and this time actually I'm going to go ahead and erase this I got it there. Just going to go ahead and use black for all of it. So I'm just writing out this other notation, which again is asking the exact same thing that these up here are asking. So with composition and plugging in numbers, I kind of like to do it in steps. So what we could do is you can automatically plug in what we just did, this up here into here and do it from there. What I like to do is I'm going to solve the inside number first. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a box around the g of -3 here inside here. And I'm going to basically find out what that one is. Now I'm going to take g of -3. What that basically means is I'm going to plug in this -3 for this x squared right here. So basically I'm going to get -3 squared, all right? Which, if we solve that out, is equal to 9, okay? Now what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to take this 9, and once I figure out what that number is, or whatever number I get with this, I'm going to start to plug that in to my f equation, because again, I got the g inside, I plug the 3 in first, and then I take that 9 and plug it into f of x up there. So actually I'm going to erase that here. F of 9, that's going to get me 2 times 9 cubed plus 2 times 9 squared. We solve that out. Let's see, 9 is going to be a fairly large number because 9 is going to get pretty big here. So we say we got 9 cubed. That's going to get me 2 times 729 plus 2 times 81, which if we do 2 times 729, that is 1,458 plus 162. If we add those together, we're going to get ourselves 1,620. All right. So it's that for that first one there. All right. I'm going to erase this. If you need to write it down, go ahead and do that. I'm going to erase this and work out the last one. And I've got to go backwards here. Sorry about that. All right. So now we're going to do this last one here. Now what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to put a box around the f of 0. The way that it would look here, I'm just going to put a little box around this. And I'm going to figure out what f of 0 is. So again, I'm going to take the 0 here and I'm going to plug it in for x in my f function right there. So if we go ahead and do that, I get 2 times 0 cubed plus 2 times 0 squared. Now if we really work all this out, 0 cubed is just, 0 plus 0 squared, which is 0. 0 times 2 is 0, plus 0 times 2 is 0. So if I plug in 0, I get, 0, okay? Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this 0 and I'm going to plug it in to my g equation. So I take this I take this number that I find, I plug it into the other equation. And if I do that, I'm going to get something basically g of 0 equals 0 squared, which is, again, 0. So final answer for this g of f of 0 is 0, okay? All right, so, sorry about that. So this is technically not in your notes, but I'm just going to do this real quick other example just to kind of show you another one. So we got f of g, it's that other notation, which again, this is the same as asking basically this. So again, this notation basically is this. One thing that a lot of people do is they put these parentheses kind of around the g of 2 here. But essentially what we do with this again is I'm going to take this g of 2 and I'm basically going to take this 2 and plug it in for x in my g equation. So I'm going to figure that out right here. So g of 2, I plug in the 2 for x, I get 3 times 2 minus 2. 3 times 2 is 6, minus 2 gets me 4. And then what I do with this 4 is I'm going to take this 4, plug it in for my x squared up there for f. So I'm going to take f of 4, which is what this is here, and then that gets me 4 squared plus 3, which 4 squared is 16 plus 3. The final answer for this then would be 19. That's your final answer for that. All right. So again, that is function composition. Take this inside one, figure out what that number is, plug that number into f of x.